Can you talk more about like your pre-med undergrad experience as a whole? Obviously, Kevin mentioned like the tough classes, and like goes without saying, there's gonna be a lot of studying. And I mean, I would say it's definitely. Would you guys consider it a hard path to medicine?
And I think we both took engineering routes to get to medicine,
Even harder
which
routes.
I think is a difficult route. I pursued it because I didn't know if I really wanted to be an engineer when I started, but ultimately I kind of have always been one and enjoy just tinkering and building and the tools that it gave me. But I don't think that you need to go down all the designated routes. Like, you don't need to be a biology major to go into medicine. Right. You don't need to be a chemistry major. Some will confer advantages, in the courses that you take and you're learning later on. But I would try and find what's right for you. But certainly, I have classmates who majored in like Russian studies and anthropology, which is none of those classes correlated with a medical school curriculum, so they had to add all of that on top, which is impressive, and they did it. But if you want to do that, just understand it's medicine will have to fit in some other way. There's just certain barriers you have to meet to be able to successfully apply.
Right. Yeah, I would say that had I done a biology major, I think my path probably would have personally been tougher because chemical engineering somehow fit into the way my brain operated.
Gotcha.
And I found it to
must be nice.
I found it to like different people. I think different people have different sort of strengths and weaknesses. And one of my big weaknesses that I openly admit is that I'm just really bad at memorization. I just have a really tough time memorizing things.
It's tough in medicine.
That's why I need bio.
It's a memorization style.
Yeah, it's a memorization heavy field, at least in the first 2 years of medical school.
Yeah.
And I struggled more so in my biology classes than my chemical engineering classes. Damn. My chemical engineering GPA was higher than my overall GPA because the classes that brought my GPA down were the biology related GPA courses.
That's so funny.
It's like I just it's just the reality that had I done a biochemistry major, biology major, I would have had a tougher time. So, you have to find a major that is the right fit, like Kevin said. And I say that with a lot of hesitation because I don't like to add this artificial pressure that pre-meds already have to find the right fit for every single thing they do. Like they just hear this song, like, is medicine the right fit for me? Students, is now I have to figure out, oh man, is this major the right fit for me? Like, I would just say, don't think too much about anything. Don't.
The right fit is always a big question.
Yeah,
in everyone's life.
And it tends to, you tend to find the right fit for you on the path of least resistance.
Yeah, definitely.
You try out 10 different things, and the path of least resistance tends to be the path that's probably the right fit for you.
That's a good point.
Or probably I would say a combination of the path of least resistance combined with your own natural success in that path. Because the path of least resistance for anyone is to just sit at home and do nothing. But if you're if you combine that with,
relative accomplishment.
Yeah, relative accomplishment. Then you'll start to realize, like, hey, this might be very fit for me. So I found that with chemical engineering.
Damn.
I was pretty lucky in that regard that it was the path of least resistance, and
it's a nice path.
And so
I fully agree of that. I've always kind of lived and found success by playing to my strengths, essentially, and trying to take that path of, I'm not certain at the outset that this is right for me, but if things are going well and I'm doing well, then I'm more inclined to enjoy that work and build those strengths. And then as part of the fit, there's been a lot of discussion in my mind around this. There's a class at Stanford that's kind of famous called Designing Your Life. So I took that class recently, and they teach a lot of the life design skills to try and better understand, what should you do what are you doing with your life, and what kind of meaning are you deriving from it?
Is that undergrad class? Sorry.
This one was for grad students, but they offer it for undergrads, grad students, elsewhere. You can check it out on they have a website called Design Your Life, and there's even a book. Just with helpful, I think it's helpful to know that everyone's thinking about this a lot, or at least at some point, and then they kind of put it aside. But one of the things that they described that was really helpful for me, that's an insight that I've taken away, is finding the right fit. It's a mantra that we hear, but not everyone will find it. Sometimes the better way to think about it is that you're going to grow into the right fit and develop.
I like that.
And it's a lot more empowering, I think, to think you're not just going to walk into the best job for you. You might actually walk in and that job not work out all that well, but eventually 6 months down the road, 8 months down the road, it's going to fit like a glove. It's going to be great for you, and you may just not see that right now.
I like that a lot. I think fit is like relationships. You have to put in work in order for them to be successful. Nothing in life, rare things in life come, without work, and I think fit is very much like that. You may be lucky and walk into a space in which you find things easier than others, which means that you may initially be inclined to think hey, this is the right fit for me. But you have to continuously put in work to make your space the right fit for you. That means personal work and also work on your environment as well. You can change your environment to make it a better fit for you.
Are you talking about associations with people, or what do you?
Yeah, sure. Associations with people. You can work within your space in your professional career to make your role a better fit for yourself. By changing aspects of your company or job or whatever your work is, to make it a better fit for your aspirations.
And how you even approach that work day to day. I think a lot of the time we get bogged down by things we're doing, and we don't always know why, and it feels like there are roadblocks, and maybe coming at them from just different angles, saying, hey, every phone call, conference meeting I'm going to take it while I'm walking outside or something. Or, now with COVID and work from home, our environment is so much more flexible than it's ever been. You don't have to report to a specific site all the time. Even medicine, you've got to go see the patients where they're at, obviously. But even then, there's a lot of medicine that's changing too, I'm seeing, around the dynamics of how we're working. And so I think, just understanding you can change the way you're approaching something is immensely empowering. It can revive parts of your day that are normally maybe wasted, or it can enable you to take on tasks that you normally wouldn't be able to.
This is a segue to that, but I think an important thing to talk about, if any pre-meds are listening to this, or if anyone is listening to this that's thinking about any sort of application to grad school, whatever, I think this is relevant to any sort of application that you sort of put in. I think it's always a good thing to find ways to make your hobbies more than just hobbies. So what I mean by this is I often tell pre-meds when they're trying to fill out their application, okay, say there's this person X who does the classic volunteering and shadowing, whatever, this and that, and they may not do much else, but they really love to cook, right? They just love to cook. So then I tell them okay, well, are there ways in which you can make your hobby of cooking into something more than a hobby? Can you start teaching classes for middle schoolers to learn basic culinary skills? Can you go work at your local YMCA and host cooking classes? Can you go to a retirement home and host a feast once a year or something? Can you put your recipes online and start a cooking channel? There's a million opportunities to make your hobby more than your hobbies and still have fun with it.
I really like that idea. Well, I like both. everything's been awesome. Like the idea that you're growing into your fit, or not even, I don't know if fit's the right word if you're growing into it, right? Because then it's more like
I think it still is, but yeah, that's how. But it's a challenge, right, to think of it that way because we're so used to just saying, "Oh, you just fall into fit," But yeah, I think you can find it or develop it.
And then I really like the idea of finding ways to expand your hobbies and stuff you naturally like doing. And I think there's so many benefits to this. Like one of them, especially for pre-med students, obviously, is that's more like resume building or application building, right? You're showing more of a narrative of how this part of your life that you care about can be extended in other options, and how you're like kind of serving that to the broader community.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a million ways.
Yeah.
It's truly unlimited.
With technology nowadays, I mean, you can reach, just talking about it, you can reach hundreds, if not thousands of people.
Yeah, you can put
immediately.
There's this dude who cooks on TikTok, and he has like millions of followers. You've probably seen it. It's like the really charismatic guy who's like
who like yells and cooks giant things.
No. I've seen that guy too. That one's also really.
There's like a guy who yells in Chinese and just like
bats of stuff.
Yeah, cooks like an entire bison or something.
I love
and you're
that.
like, what?
So cool.
I love that. Yeah. There's this other guy. He's just like he cooks. He's like this young dude who's just like entering college this year or something. But he's a really talented cook, and he just puts his recipes on TikTok.
Oh, okay.
And narrates them and just gets millions of followers. And I'm sure that's opened a world of opportunities for him.
Oh, I bet.
So
there are all these platforms, I mean, to explore and innovate on. And just, I fully agree with putting your hobbies. I've always put my kind of like hobbies and interests first and foremost almost because fortunately those have aligned well with a medical career. I like to build medical devices and things and think about them as well as do that kind of academic work. So that helps me naturally. But I echo the hobby thing especially because I remember when I was interviewing for med school, I walked into an interview and the director of admissions, was greeting me and he shook my hand and he said, "You're the one who likes barbecue." And this was in Texas. This was in Austin, of course. But I shook his hand. I said, "Yeah, of course." And I remember on my MCAT or on the application system for med school, one of my like hobbies they're just like interests. I think you can put anything in that field. But I had done some barbecuing events for my fraternity as well as like the charity organization that we benefit. So I just put that down that I'd smoke a couple 100 pounds of pork every year and we'd sell it and it'd go very well. And that was a huge conversation pointer because I mean the director of admissions knew my name and knew who I was just as the guy who does barbecue.
That's so funny.
And that's irrespective of all the other things on my application. There's, pages and pages, but that's the one thing, he really focused in on. And I loved it too. It was a great interview and I almost went to that school just because I, felt like a person there. Because they valued that other side of me that isn't just,
unlike Stanford,
medical.
Right?
That's so, so important. Again, to people that are listening to this, that are trying to apply to medical school or maybe that are trying to design their college experience. Obviously you have to have your fundamentals down. You have to have good grades. You have to have a good test scores. Beyond that though, it's really kind of up to you how you design your college experience. And time again, I found that the most successful people are the ones that have their fundamentals down but then do really interesting things that they just love and work hard at those things. That's what makes you stand out. Same thing happened to me at Yale in my interview there for med school. It was at Columbia. The director of admissions was like, "Oh, you're the YouTube guy, and you like making YouTube videos." And that was something that I put on my AMCAS application.
And it's always kind of like a throwaway. Like it's not your centerpiece, right? You're not sitting down going, "This is important." But
Same thing for residency applications. I was telling these guys earlier, I have a TikTok that I make like just medical school comedy posts on. And I brought that up on many residency interviews and people loved it,
It shows you're a person who's interesting, which is honestly, what we all like. I like to say you need to pass the You need to try to think of things that'll help you pass like the airport test, you know? If you're gonna be in the airport lounge for 2 hours with this person and talking to them, what can you do in your life that'll sustain a conversation, that'll make it, you know, interesting? That's for you and ideally the people in your life too. If you can stomach a couple hours with them. I remember I even had that a couple of times. Fortunately, I was with some aspiring med students who were very interesting. We had great conversations. So, you know, it's it pays to do interesting things, whatever they are, and whatever you want them to be.
Yeah, I think that's what I really like about the idea of pursuing your hobby, and then also, I think you kind of like touched on it, but like the idea of like a very flexible approach to education. Because I think definitely in high school we have these stories or narratives in our mind that are like the model ones for each of our, like, you know, pre-law, pre-med, pre-scientist, pre-astronaut even. And like those don't really correlate to how actual life works. Like you don't have some idea, especially when you're that young, and then you're like, okay, I just need to do these steps, and then this will happen, and then I will be happy. Like there's so many decision points along the way and different pathways you can go, even towards like a singular goal. That like just that sort of freedom of flexibility. Like a lot of people don't realize that coming straight out of high school or even coming out of college, some people still don't really see. Like,
yeah. And I think, you know, I feel like both Pranjal and I have a lot of probably like self-assurance, you know, the ability to know, maybe the ability to know that what we're doing is okay and we're going to be able to make things work. But I know it's not always the case for everyone to have that kind of confidence or ability to know that what path you're on is a good one.
It's a weird path, like,
Yeah. But I think, you know, the more I've reflected and looked back, the more I think just anything's going to work out well for you. If you do decide you want to go into medicine, there's so many ways to get into it. And I think there's so many ways to do other medical related things too that aren't becoming a doctor. I think that's also a big thing to consider is not only the other allied health professions. You can be a PA, a nurse practitioner, you know, nursing school, other elements that are clinically involved. But then there's so many ways to be in kind of the healthcare space and doing cool things that don't necessitate you being an MD. My girlfriend right now works in health policy at like kind of the Medicare level. And she came from like a statistics background and went into that. And so she works intimately with healthcare and healthcare data, but at a level that's, you know, 2 levels above my, you know, my clinical world, you know, but still involved in it. And I think you can do that. You can get into the space from different ways and still play a big role. Because I do think healthcare is really a big draw to people, especially now with the emphasis around COVID and, you know, understanding health and how it impacts society. And I think, you know, even more so now, engineers, data scientists, social sciences, all of that is playing a bigger role in how we should improve the health of society. And I think you can come at healthcare from many different avenues and have a real positive impact.